For centuries, when the world has spoken about slavery, one story has dominated the conversation: the Atlantic slave trade. Images of crowded ships crossing the ocean have become symbols of one of history's greatest tragedies. But there is another story. A story stretching across scorching deserts, hidden caravan routes, and powerful kingdoms. A story that lasted for more than 1,000 years. A story that affected millions of Africans, reshaped entire societies, and left scars that can still be traced today. This was the Trans-Saharan slave trade. Unlike the Atlantic trade, this network did not rely on ships crossing oceans. Instead, thousands of human beings were forced to march across one of the harshest environments on Earth, the Sahara Desert. Many never reached their destination. Those who survived faced lives of servitude in cities stretching from North Africa to the Middle East and beyond. Why is this chapter of history discussed far less than others? Who profited from it? How did African kingdoms become involved? And what really happened to the people whose lives were forever changed? Today, we uncover one of Africa's least understood historical tragedies. This is the dark truth about the Trans-Saharan slave trade. To understand this story, we must travel back over 1,000 years. Long before European empires reached Africa's coasts, the Sahara Desert already separated two very different worlds. To the north lay cities connected to the Mediterranean and the expanding Islamic world. To the south flourished powerful African societies rich in gold, salt, ivory, and agricultural wealth. For thousands of years, the Sahara had been a nearly impassable barrier. Everything changed with one remarkable animal: the camel. Around the early centuries of the Common Era, camel caravans made long-distance desert travel possible. Traders could now carry enormous quantities of goods across vast distances. Soon, trade routes connected North Africa with the kingdoms of West Africa. Gold flowed north. Salt flowed south. Ideas traveled. Religion spread. Languages mixed. Unfortunately, people also became commodities. As commercial networks expanded, enslaved individuals became one of many goods exchanged along these routes. Over time, what began as a limited practice developed into one of history's longest-running systems of human trafficking. The Sahara Desert is one of Earth's most unforgiving environments. Daytime temperatures can exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Water is scarce. Sandstorms can erase entire caravan trails. Yet every year, enormous caravans cross these hostile landscapes. Some caravans included thousands of camels. Merchants carried salt, textiles, spices, books, precious metals, and enslaved people. Many captives had first been seized through warfare, raids, political rivalries, or local systems of enslavement within different African societies. It is important to recognize that practices varied widely across regions and centuries, and historians caution against treating Africa as a single, uniform society. Captives were marched hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Those who collapsed were sometimes abandoned. Food and water were tightly rationed. The desert itself became a weapon. By the time survivors reached markets in North African cities, many had already endured unimaginable suffering. History is rarely simple. The Trans-Saharan slave trade involved multiple groups over many centuries. North African merchants organized caravans. Some rulers taxed the trade. Buyers across North Africa and parts of the Middle East created demand for enslaved labor. At the same time, some African rulers, merchants, and political elites participated by capturing or selling prisoners of war or other captives, while many other African communities resisted raids, suffered attacks, or became victims themselves. This complexity does not lessen the suffering of those who were enslaved. Instead, it reminds us that history often involves difficult choices, shifting alliances, economic pressures, and unequal power, not simple stories of heroes and villains. Millions of ordinary people paid the price. Several powerful kingdoms became connected to these trade networks. The Empire of Ghana controlled important trade routes. Later, the Mali Empire rose to extraordinary wealth through gold and commerce. The Songhai Empire became one of Africa's greatest states. These empires prospered primarily through trade in commodities such as gold and salt, although enslaved people also formed part of regional commercial systems. It is important not to reduce these civilizations to slavery alone. They were also centers of learning. Cities such as Timbuktu became famous for libraries, universities, astronomy, mathematics, law, and theology. Scholars traveled from distant lands to study there. African civilization during this period was sophisticated, dynamic, and deeply connected to the wider world. Yet alongside these remarkable achievements, slavery remained a painful reality within many societies of the era. For those who survived the crossing, another ordeal began. Many were employed as domestic servants, others worked in agriculture. Some served in armies. Others labored in workshops or mines. Some women were forced into domestic or sexual exploitation, and odd experiences differed greatly depending on the region, period, and the household or institution in which people were held. A small number of enslaved people eventually gained freedom, rose to positions of influence, or became respected scholars or military leaders. These exceptional cases, however, should not obscure the fact that slavery fundamentally denied people their freedom, separated families, and exposed millions to exploitation. For most captives, the loss of home, identity, and autonomy was profound. One question puzzles many historians. How could this trade continue for more than a millennium? The answer lies in economics. Demand remained strong. Trade routes remained profitable. Political authorities often benefited from taxing commerce. Control over caravan routes brought wealth and influence. As long as markets existed and states could profit, the system proved remarkably resilient. Over centuries, changing empires, dynasties, and political systems inherited or reshaped these networks rather than ending them outright. Estimating the number of people affected is difficult. Historical records are incomplete, and scholars continue to debate the figures. Most historians agree that millions of Africans were transported through Trans-Saharan and related trade networks over many centuries, though precise totals remain uncertain. Behind every estimate was a human life. A child separated from parents. A village devastated by raids. A family waiting for loved ones who would never return. Entire communities changed. Population patterns shifted. Fear shaped daily life in some regions. The consequences extended far beyond those who were taken up. Many people first learned about slavery through the Atlantic trade because it was closely connected to European colonialism in the Americas and generated extensive written records. The Trans-Saharan trade, by contrast, unfolded across vast regions over more than 1,000 years and involved many different states, societies, and commercial systems. Its documentation is scattered across numerous languages and historical traditions. For that reason, it has often received less attention in classrooms and popular media. But lesser known does not mean less important. Understanding this history provides a fuller picture of Africa's past and of the global systems that shaped the world. History is not about choosing which tragedies deserve remembrance. It is about seeking the truth even when that truth is uncomfortable. The Trans-Saharan slave trade reminds us that human suffering can be woven into prosperous trade networks, powerful empires, and thriving civilizations. It also reminds us of the resilience of the countless individuals whose names were never recorded but whose lives mattered. By studying their stories with care and accuracy, we honor their memory and deepen our understanding of the past. Thank you for watching. If you believe more people should learn about Africa's overlooked history, subscribe to African Tales Arising, leave a comment with the topic you'd like us to explore next, and share this video with someone who loves history. Because history hidden is history at risk of being forgotten, and every story deserves to be remembered.